Let's go.
What a lovely day!
Andy, there's a whole world out there. Jump in.
Can you dig it?
Yeah.
You must always pay strict attention.
I was just completely enamored by it the entire time.
Dude, he did not have to go that hard.
I know, man. Isn't it wild?
The Jared Cast.
So it begins.
Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening to everyone who listens to the Jared Cast. Welcome. My name is Jared. Welcome to the Jared Cast. Yeah. That's what's up. My name is Jared Ancanan, co-host, co-producer. My other co-host, co-producer, Jared Lombardo, is currently out of town, but I'm here doing a solo review, 2 solo reviews instead. We're not doing a list today, sadly, but I have 2 great little projects to review. The first is the first half of season 1 of Spy Family, which finished airing about a month ago. And, in anticipation of the second part and just to celebrate that first part, I'm going to be reviewing the first 12 episodes. And then I'm also going to be reviewing Emily the Criminal, which came out. So today is Sunday. It came out Friday. I'm recording on Sunday, the 21st of August. It came out Friday, August 19th. I'm going to be reviewing both. But we can start off. We get started with Emily the Criminal. Emily the Criminal is a brand new film that came out, a crime drama starring Aubrey Plaza, one of my favorite actresses. I think she has such an amazing versatility, even though she's kind of known for playing grumpy characters and playing kind of sour-faced, people who don't take shit from anybody and all that kind of thing. She played April Ludgate in Parks and Recreation, and that's kind of where I first found her work. And since she has been doing she's done a couple serious movies, most notably Black Bear, which I really love. That was one of my favorite movies of the year it came out. I think it was 2020. And this one also stars Theo Rossi. Theo Rossi is known for portraying a lot of Hispanic characters in Sons of Anarchy, and I think Luke Cage as well. But here he actually plays a Lebanese character, which is interesting because he actually is Lebanese. Aubrey Plaza plays Emily, the titular character who, due to student debt and due to a kind of and due to the fact that she can't be hired because she's been a convicted felon, she decides to commit credit card fraud, and is kind of introduced to this life of crime by Theo Rossi's character, and his character is called Youssef. And so along the way, as she starts committing more and more crimes and doing more scams, she discovers more things about herself that surprise not just herself, but Youssef as well. And this movie is very, very good. It's a very, very good movie. Very subtle, very kind of subdued crime thriller. The movie doesn't hit you over the head with any of its emotions, doesn't really hit you over the head with its themes. They do say what the movie's about in the dialogue, but that's to be expected. It doesn't need it. It feels natural still in the dialogue. John Patton Ford wrote and directed this film, and I think his work is really, really notable because it feels like something that could happen in this world and in the world that we live in. We have a lot of we're kind of reaching a crisis where so many people of a single generation and multiple generations actually have all of this debt that they accumulated due to the high cost of education, of collegiate education, and a lot of them are kind of struggling to overcome it. You know, there are people who are, 20 years older than us that still have not overcome it. And it's really messed up, man. It's a messed up system. And it's really, really, the movie does a good job of showing you Emily's struggle so that you get on board with her and with why she does what she does and why she decides to um why she decides to take the things that she takes and take as much money as she can, because there really is no other option for her. Her back is against the wall, as she said in an interview, as Aubrey Plaza said in the interview. And I think the movie's very well written. I think it's, it's not out there to blow your mind. It's not out there to be like, whoa, like an Inception type thing or any of that. But it's out there to say something very specific about the world that we live in, and to show you a character that you can relate to, that you can get behind, and that you can and to really just show off Aubrey Plaza's talent, man. This is one of her best performances. I say that every time I see a new movie with her, because she really gets better as the years go on. She's constantly striving to push herself and constantly striving to find new characters and find new avenues of expression and find new genres to participate in. She's really, really stunning in this movie, even though she's not really glamorized. Her character doesn't wear makeup for most of the movie. Her character doesn't have styled hair for most of the movie. She's kind of just trying, because literally she's just trying to get by. She's just has none of that. She doesn't have the time to show up in a sexy outfit and do sexy crimes. She just has to walk outside in her tank top and use a taser. So this movie is very, very good for what it is. And I'm going to give it a 9.2. I think they do everything that they need to do in the edit and in the cinematography by Jeff Bierman. Fantastic work. It's a lot of blues, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. It doesn't feel like they just kind of colored it to the standard way, the standard digital way. It does feel like it's its own movie. It does feel like it's Los Angeles. And whether it's the interiors or the exteriors, the cinematography is also very handheld, and it's never too shaky. Like, the handheld actually makes you feel like you're really living in this character's shoes and really living in their uncertainty and living in her state of mind. Oftentimes she's pushed to the brink of her emotional limits, of her mental limits, and she has to kind of overcome that. And I think the movie does a great job of showing that. I think the handheld cinematography, I think, is even better than I shouted out bodies for that cinematography, but I think it's even better here. The editing by Harrison Atkins is very well paced, I think. There are moments where the movie does slow down, but it slows down to really get you to know the character, let you get to know the character, and let you there's even a sequence where they're eating dinner at Yusef's house, with Yusef's mom's house, and you can see, like, oh, this guy who's in charge of this criminal racket, like, he's not even really a bad guy. He's just someone who wants to build a life for himself out here and is struggling just the same as the main character. And so that was really cool. That was really interesting to watch. And it's interesting because you really feel for him, and you as you grow to understand him, as Emily grows to understand Yusef, his exterior softens up, and at the same time, her journey is kind of the opposite direction, right? She goes from being this, like, very vulnerable, very kind of wimpy, to being very confident and very outspoken, very boss, very gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss type energy. And it's very, very fun to see that development. The score is by Nathan Halpern. Nathan Halpern did the score for Swallow, which is another very kind of subdued thriller. That one is very different. You know, there's a lot of tripod, there's a lot of dollying in that one, and so the music kind of creeps up on you in that one. It's very, very good. But here the music is is very electronic based, and it's very it really keeps you on your toes, and it really gets you involved with the suspense. You know, a lot of the suspense happens because this character has no muscles. You know, she has no weapons. She has no guns. You know, she really has to use her brain. She really has to rely on her own resilience and persevere through a terrible situation, like when she has to steal a car from these Middle Eastern dudes. It's very, very harrowing. Because it's literally just her. You know, she has no backup. She has no help. If she tries to call the police, she'll get arrested too, and that's even worse for her. Um, and there's also a scene where she's getting robbed at her own home by someone with a box cutter, and that's even crazier because it's really, really beautifully edited and shot. And then the music kind of like lives underneath it and underneath that scene and gives that scene a really awesome breath of life. And yeah, it's really, really harrowing and fun to watch, and to watch her kind of, you know, after she gets robbed, she breaks down, she cries, and then she's just like, no, fuck this, and she goes out, grabs her stun gun, grabs her taser, and then and takes the money back. And it's really, really satisfying to watch because of that. The camera follows her every step of the way. It's really, really cool. And I think that's something that John Patton Ford, that's a choice that John Patton Ford made in the story that really helps solidify the thesis of the film, which is, you know, just a character study and of what is a criminal in a world full of criminals. You know, what is you know, is and the movie really tries to blur the lines between good and evil. What, you know, are criminals necessarily good or necessarily evil? This film asks those questions of you and really makes you think about the world that you live in now, and a lot of the reasoning behind the camera work and the reasoning behind the editing is to give you a sense of realism and to promote this sense of realism that this could be happening in our back door or in our backyards, and we wouldn't know. This could be happening just, you know, in the next house over. And at one point there's a robbery that near the end of the film. Emily and Yusuf rob someone's house just in the middle of the suburbs, and like going back through the scene and me trying to like play out the scene in my head, like every single step works logically. Every single, like, there's no like commando stealth mission. It's just two normal individuals outsmarting the people in the house, and it's very, very and because of that, you really feel like the commentary that this film has on the world and on the systems in this world that we live in, on the real world. The commentary hits harder, and it feels more personal, and it feels like, oh man, maybe this movie has a point. Maybe Emily has a point about what she's saying, you know. And so I really appreciated that. I also appreciated another aspect of the story, which was that the film also really tries to focus on the idea that she has no other choice besides doing this. You know, we were told in the beginning of the film that she has $70,000 of debt. We're also shown in the beginning of the film that people who she wants to get hired by and people that she wants to work for, honest, legitimate businesses, use trickery against her to get her to reveal personal information about herself, namely that she's a convicted felon. You know, that information is obviously accessible to them, and it's her choice to lie about it. But it's very clear that these so-called places where you earn an honest living, from the very first scene, it's clear that these places are not honest and that they're not run by honest people. Um, the whole movie, she's constantly trying to her friend from college is constantly trying to, no, her friend from high school is constantly trying to get her a job and trying to get her to work at the company that she works at as a graphic designer because she's an art student, and we find out and she finally gets an interview, and you're like, okay, cool, so she doesn't have to do these crazy criminal things. Now she finally has an option. She has a way out of this business. She can get out. And then when she shows up to the interview, which, by the way, I didn't know that the interviewer was going to be Gina Gershon, and so that was a very pleasant surprise, seeing that actress. But this Liz is her friend. Liz's boss tells her, you got to work 6 months as an unpaid intern before we can even consider you for a position. And you're like, what? Like someone who studied this field for 4 years, and because of expenses, and because of her dying father, and because of her crime before, she wasn't able to finish that degree, but she still practices. She still is good at the craft. She can still do the job, but to them, it's not good enough. To them, you have to work like an extra 6 months. 6 months of free work, full-time free work, is insane. That's an insane thing to ask for a person, for an adult trying to get by in Los Angeles of all places. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And so Emily walks out of that interview and decides to rob Yusuf's cousin, who already robbed him. Every single choice made by the character feels like a natural choice and feels like a great choice. And so there's this grand irony underneath the title, Emily the Criminal, right? Because yeah, she is a criminal. She's breaking the law, but she's only taking stuff because that's all she knows how to do, because everybody's trying to take something from her. Everybody in the film is trying to take something from her, no matter what. Like, a lot of the reason why we get behind Emily is because Aubrey Plaza is so convincing as this character. She plays, like I said earlier, a very different character than the character that she usually plays. She's earnest, but she's also trying to, she has her back against the wall, and so you feel like rooting for her as an underdog for the entire thing. And yeah, Aubrey Plaza's performance is not really comedic here. She's not going for a laugh. She's not, trying to ham up the awkwardness of a situation. She's not, another technique that she does in her talk show appearances and in some of her comedies is she'll like really try to act normal, and that results in a more awkward conversation or a more awkward scene. And here she doesn't do that. Here she's playing the character very kind of low key, very subtle, very not doe-eyed, but just scrambling for options, scrambling for something to do, and scrambling for an upper hand in a world where she is constantly the underdog, and she's constantly overlooked by employers, by her bosses, by everybody else. The movie is also very clear that the movie also shows you that there are other people kind of in the same boat that she is. She's they're trying to work in the gig economy, and other people have found success or found balance, and for some reason she can't, because of the choices that she made in the past. She can't. And so her story is about making new choices, making choices that are. She says it near the end, before they decide to rob Yusuf before they decide to rob Yusuf's cousin at his house. She tells Yusuf, she's like, it's like everyone's just gonna keep taking and taking, so now it's our turn to take, or something like that. Now it's our turn to take what we want. And that is and that's the movie right there, man. That's it. The movie's. I also admire the movie for its simplicity. I'm not going to spend an hour analyzing Emily the Criminal, because there isn't a whole lot to analyze. It's also very short. It's 94 minutes. Aubrey Plaza's performance in here makes me so optimistic for her future. She's also executive producer on this movie, and so I can imagine she had some creative input as well. And it was very cool it's very cool to see her branch out. And as a fan of her, in looking at this movie and reading it within the Aubrey Plaza canon, I think this is a very special movie. I think everybody who's a fan of her and her work should go check it out, and go check out her and just see how talented she is and see how versatile she is. But yeah, Emily the Criminal is fantastic. I gave it a 9.2. Alrighty, yeah. The next thing I'm going to talk about is Spy Family. It's part 1 of season 1 of this very famous anime that's kind of taking the world by storm. It's the latest, like, trendy one, I guess you could say. Yeah, it is good. I mean, it's trending for a reason. It's very good. I was actually introduced to the story first through the manga. My friend Oscar, who, if you're listening, shout out Oscar. My good friend Oscar recommended this one to me. And I just thought it was the funniest thing I had ever read. It was so good. And I felt very connected to the characters. I felt very invested in their journeys, and this was no exception. I was very nervous going into the anime because there's so much inner monologue that goes on, both because it's a spy show, so there's a lot of like everybody trying to guess what everybody else is thinking, but there is also a character. There's more than one character who can sense what other characters are thinking, and so there's a lot of and they do a really beautiful job with the sound design to kind of nail the vibe of the show, where you're able to digest the inner monologue as well as the stuff inside, or the stuff that's actually being heard and the words that are actually being said by the characters. And the look of the show is also very good. I did have a feeling that, like, even though, yeah, the art is black and white, that a lot of that the show would use a lot of lighter colors. They would not use a lot of shadows, and yeah, this is no exception. The anime is, takes that to. And yeah, the anime takes that to heart a lot from the manga. There's really not a whole lot of like dark, heavy scenes. There are some scenes that happen at night, but even those are pretty well lit and pretty bright overall. And yeah, so Spy Family, as a premise, for those of you who don't know, it follows the world's greatest, craftiest spy named Lloyd Forger. And Lloyd Forger is part of this nation called Westelis, and Westelis is kind of in this constant conflict with its neighboring country. Let me look it up. Ostania. So Westelis and its neighboring country, Ostalia, or Ostania. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, this so these two countries are constantly at war, even though they're right next to each other. And it's kind of an interesting parallel between the Cold War. Like, of course, the show takes a lot of inspiration from James Bond and a lot of inspiration from those old 1960s spy movies, and kind of the goofy tone, but also the gadgets and the suspicion and the constant like looking over your shoulder and being aware of surveillance and all that stuff. Like, and everything's pretty analog too. I don't think there's, even though they do have smartphones, like the characters can't really use them to there's still ways of getting people to there's still, you still need to cover your tracks even if you're using smartphones. And so yeah, it's very similar to Cold War Germany and kind of the Berlin Wall, and East and West Berlin and all that stuff. And it's very interesting, very cool, and I like it a lot. I think this this world that they build is a world that's naturally built on mistrust of your neighbor, of mistrust of people that right across from you, and being suspicious of them. That's why Lloyd is the main character. The other character is, so Lloyd's mission basically is to preserve peace by making contact with a high ranking person in Ostania, right? So he's a Westelis person posing as an Ostanian, trying to get them to not to trying to preserve peace, basically. And in order to do that, he has to pose as a normal family man. So he adopts a young girl named Anya, and he marries a young woman named Yor Briar. And what he doesn't know is that Yor Briar is actually an assassin, and she's the world's greatest assassin for Ostania. So she's supposed to try to kill him. And what he also doesn't know is that Anya is the world's most powerful psychic. So she knows both of her parents' identities, but because she's so taken with them, because she's bored, and because she just wants a home, she just wants a family, she just wants love, Anya does whatever she can to manipulate them into staying together as a family. And in order to and so she's helping. So a lot of the time she's helping Lloyd on his mission, and going along with Lloyd's lies, and trying to make him and trying to make his mission a success. Later on, they adopted. Spoiler alert! For part 2. For those of you who have not read the manga, but have seen part 1, they also adopt a dog. They adopt a dog who is also psychic, and so it's very, very interesting and very, very cool. And the family dynamics are all hilarious. This is a comedy, and there's a lot of hijinks. A lot of hijinks ensue, and it's so funny, because of not just because of its premise, but because Lloyd and Yor, Lloyd has pretty much only been a spy for his whole life, and Yor has only been an assassin for her whole life. And so they don't know how to run a house, they don't know how to be a husband and wife, they don't know how to be parents. And so a lot of the show is them using their talents to protect their family, but also bumbling around and failing at basic activities, and failing at basic parenting things. And and gradually over time, eventually Lloyd is starts to develop romantic feelings towards Yor, and an attraction towards her, and Yor does as well, and towards him, and it starts developing parental feelings towards Anya, and starts to care for her actually as his daughter. We're still very early on in the story, and so the only bad thing about part 1 is that it leaves you on a weird note. Other than that, it's a hilarious family comedy. It's a hilarious spy comedy with all kinds of twists and turns and close calls. Lots of nodding at the camera and winking at the camera when they make fun of the spy genre. And overall, this movie it's really, really funny, really, really over the top, and really well animated. So I'm gonna give Spy Family a 9.4. I think it's very, very good. It just kind of, the ending just kind of, it just stops. It literally just stops, and you're like, okay, now I gotta wait until October for for the next episode. Like, oh my god. But honestly, like, that's fine. The animators can take their time, because as long whatever they can do to make the show look as good as it does, they should do it. The animation, like I said, is beautiful. There is some action in it. We do get to see Yor kill people or assassinate some people. We do get to see Lloyd do his spy martial arts in a lot of action scenes, and they're really well animated. They're really smooth. We really get to see the high skills, the highly skilled people, the highly skilled assassin and the highly skilled spy fight in really awesome ways. And we also see that Yor is like comically strong. Like, she can kick people into the sky. She can do all this crazy stuff. It's very, very fun to watch her. And also, there's this other the story bounces back and forth between the three of them as main characters, which I really love as well. It's not just Lloyd's story of trying to preserve peace. Um, it's also a fish out of water story for Yor. Like she's never really had a real relationship before, and even though this is not a relationship, it's built on lies and built on deceit and built on acting. She genuinely cares for Anya, and she genuinely cares for Lloyd, and she really wants to protect them. And you get that sense very early on, because even though she's an assassin, she's lonely. She really needs she really needs people to take care of. Her whole life has been about killing people, about taking them out. And this is the first time that she's had to take care of someone, and really help them stay afloat in life and through their struggles. There's also some fun side characters. There's Yuri Breyer. Yuri is Yor's younger brother. He's really hilarious. He's actually part of the Secret Service of Ostania, and so he's this master interrogator that Lloyd has to try to fool. And and he keeps his identity from his sister as well, so that even that relationship is built on a lie. But he's comically obsessed with his sister in a really uncomfortable way. And and so when he meets the husband for the first time, it's so funny. Him constantly trying to get him to trying to get Lloyd to prove to him that he actually loves Yor, but also like he can't stand the sight of seeing his sister kiss another man besides him. Besides him. It's so bad, dude. It's so uncomfortable and weird, and they call attention to the fact that it's uncomfortable and weird, and I love it. I love it. There's also the students. Emil is oh no, sorry. Damien is Anya's target. So Anya has to become friends with Damien in order to get Lloyd and her dad in the same room, and Damien's dad in the same room, to preserve peace. Problem is, Damien's a rich, pretentious asshole, so she has to figure out how to become friends with him, even though she very much does not like him. And then in her effort to try to become friends with him, Damien starts to have feelings for her. But he's got to still keep up the act of a rich, pretentious asshole while he's developing feelings for Anya. And it's very, very fun, very, very confusing for her as well. And it's always funny to just to see those antics play out, man. To see Lloyd going on his spy missions, to see Yor trying not to kill people, and Anya just trying to not lose her shit because her parents are so cool but also so scary. And yeah, it's such a wholesome, such a fun, and such a interesting and really impressive show. There are layers to the comedy as well. Anya is obsessed with Bondman, which is a tongue-in-cheek, the whole show is tongue-in-cheek, but there's an especially tongue-in-cheek aspect of the show where she watches a TV show called Bondman and learns different social skills from watching that TV show, because she grew up in a lab, right? She had experiments done on her, and so she doesn't know how to relate to people. She doesn't know how to live in society, but because she watches Bondman, she knows like how to. She starts learning about the world that way, and also like starts learning stuff about her dad, and her dad's like kind of suspicious, like when she says something that he's thinking, he's always like suspicious, like, did she hear that from me or from the TV show? And so a lot of this is it's all very interesting, and a lot of the comedy is based in the fact that these people don't have common sense because they're not normal, and so these highly abnormal people have to pretend to be a normal family, and because of that, the movie is able to comment, to have the anime is able to have this meta commentary on the spy genre and kind of what and the silliness of it and the seriousness of it. Like, what's at stake here is the fate of the world and the lives of innocent people. But also, like, it's funny to like look at how crazy everybody else is around them, and it's sorry, but also it's really funny uh to see them poke fun at James Bond and all the James Bond tropes, like disguises and secret codes, and how all those things can go wrong. And the comedy is also rooted in family. You know, what is a husband supposed to do? What is a wife supposed to do? What is a child supposed to do? What is a good student supposed to do? What are parents and children? How are parents and children supposed to talk to each other? Supposed to treat each other? A lot of the comedy pokes fun at these ideas that we have of a normal nuclear family, and yeah, it's very those layers supplement the laughs, but they also supplement how much I care about these characters, you know, and how invested I am in the show. The show is also it's also backed up by like a lot of like free jazz and a lot of not free jazz, but like kind of Japanese style bebop, and that kind of adds to the like the whole the tone of like just scrambling to get on top of things. And the music also uplifts those two genre comedies. Yeah, I highly recommend Spy Family for fans of more comedic anime. It's also not very sexual, which I really enjoy. Like, they don't sexualize the 6-year-old girl, which is nice, but they also don't sexualize the wife too much, which is really cool. Like, obviously she's presented as this beautiful woman. Lloyd is obviously attracted to her. Men are attracted to her, but she's there to be basically a superhero and be kind of someone that is trying to appear domesticated, and the most terrifying person in the world is trying to appear domesticated. And so yeah, it's just a really fun movie, so yeah, it's just a really fun TV show, really interesting characters, and I highly recommend it to anybody looking for a laugh, looking for a good time, looking for a show that you can just turn your brain off, but also a show that engages in themes and actually tries to get deeper than the average anime. Yeah, I gave Spy Family a 9.4. And as far as favorite episodes go, I don't really have one. I think just the last one is my least favorite. But I also love the episode where Yuri comes to visit the family, and we get to learn more about Yor as what she was like as an older sister, taking care of him, and yeah, that's all I pretty much got for it. Both of these projects are very, very good and very, very interesting, but they're and very, very visually stunning, and great sound design for both of them as well. But there's not a whole lot to dive into as far as like deep analysis. So these reviews are very short, but I think that's what makes this episode kind of nice. You can go about the rest of your day. I highly recommend you check them out, though. Spy Family is streaming on Hulu, on Crunchyroll, and maybe Funimation. I don't know. Probably because Funimation and Crunchyroll merged recently. And yeah, you can go follow the Jared Cast on whatever social media platform you follow, and we're mostly active on Instagram, so keep up with us on Instagram. We're also, you can also follow the YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Spotify and on SoundCloud. If you follow and you like and you repost videos on SoundCloud, especially or on Instagram or on YouTube, especially that helps us with the algorithm. So definitely thank you to everybody who's commenting, sending nice things. I appreciate all of you. And yeah, we love you. Goodbye.
Let's go.
What a lovely day!
Andy, there's a whole world out there. Jump in.
Can you dig it?
Yeah.
You must always pay strict attention.
I was just completely enamored by it the entire time.
Dude, he did not have to go that hard.
I know, man. Isn't it wild?
The Jared Cast.